Good day. I'm Orlando Roberts and welcome to Universal Design for Learning. In this storybook, we'll be looking at what UDL is, explanation of the principles of UDL, application of UDL in STEM classroom, and the benefits of UDL. What is UDL? Now, UDL is a framework which aims to reduce barriers to learning and ensure that all learners have equal opportunity for success. As you can see here in this image, there are two different situations. So in the first situation, each person has the same size box, but this is disadvantageous because only two persons can see the game. In the second image, if the materials allow for everyone to be able to see the game, then that allows for equity. So UDL is all about equity and not equality. So equality, some people would be disadvantaged, while equity, it ensures that everyone has equal opportunity for success. Principles of UDL. Now there are three main principles of UDL. First one is means of representation. Second, means of action and expression. Third, means of engagement. Means of representation looks at presenting information in different ways to support access and understanding. Means of action and expression offers option and support to all so everyone can create, learn, and share. Means of engagement offers option to support and stimulate motivation and sustained engagement. Let's look at representation. So, based on the different type of learning style, as an educator, we have to ensure that the information provided to the learners are represented in different media. So as you can see here, there are various forms of media that the information can be presented in. So we have sound for those persons who are audio learners, video for those persons who are visual learners. We also have closed caption for those persons who learn through text, and we also have book and literature. We also have presentation for those persons who are visual learners. We also have magazine for those persons who can read and graphs. All right, action and expression. So this is where we give learners more than one way to interact with the materials and to show what they know. All right. So example for persons are who learn through written, a good way to assess them or to show what they learn is through an interactive writing, an ebook. Person who is a audio learner could record a podcast. Person who is a tactile learner could use Puppet, or they could interact with a simulation game. A person who is a visual learner, they could use a video, or they could use visual note taking, or they could use a concept map or a digital storybook. All right, so there are different ways for a learner to express what they know. Let's look at means of engagement in learning. So this is to ensure that we provide multiple means of engaging the learners in the concepts. So for a person to really be engaged, then we have to try to find means that they enjoy to do. So one way is using interactive games, providing choices, collaborative teamwork for those persons who like to work in groups, self-reflection on choices, real life application, because that is important. Students learn best when they see the application of their work, and music for those persons who are audio learners, and taking pictures for those persons who are visual learners. That would be important for them. Let's look at the application of UDL. So as it relates to the representation, we have to ensure that we represent the information in different modes, and to apply it, we have to have varied format. We have to ensure that we include background information. We have to ensure that we include vocabulary and symbols. We clarify those. Say, for example, if we have if we're presenting information, then we have to use different modes of presenting information. So say, for example, if we're teaching about digestion in biology, then we have to ensure that we have different things to show the information to cater for the different learning styles in the classroom, right? So we could use, say for example, we could use a simulation. We could use a chart for those persons who are visual learner. We could use a speech for those persons who may have a speech to text for those persons who may have audio issues. We could use tactile things for those persons who are tactile learner, or a person who might have a visual impairment. Right? As it relates to vocabulary and symbol clarification, so in sciences, it is important that we clarify certain vocabulary, because the jargon used in science is often at a different level. So to cater for different students who might be at different levels, we have to ensure that we include a vocabulary, and we also clarify symbols. So say for example, if we're teaching a chemistry lesson, we have to clarify certain symbols that may not be readily understood. So like we may need to clarify certain symbols on the periodic table, or if it's a physics lesson, then we may need to clarify certain symbols in electricity. All right, background knowledge. So going into the lesson, we may have to include certain information that the students would be exposed to. So we have to include background information, or prior knowledge questions, or prior knowledge content. So the students are actually exposed to the content that they need in order to learn the lesson effectively. As it relates to action and expression, means we have to ensure that we have variety of in assessment, because as we mentioned before, we are catering to students of different learning styles, so they may express their knowledge in a different way. So a good way to use this, we could have the students present their understanding of the content based on their learning style. So say for example, if we're teaching germination, we may ask the students to present their findings via video or presentation for those persons who are visual learners. And for those persons who are tactile learners, we may ask them to carry out an experiment, or interact with a virtual simulation, right? For those persons who are better at writing or text learners, then we may ask them to do a portfolio, or something like that. For for persons who are disadvantaged, or they may have a learning disability, or an impairment, then we have to ensure that we include assistive technology. So we may have speech to text for those persons who may be auditory challenged or may have an auditory impairment. For persons who are visually impaired, we may have to include probably a braille computer or braille technology in some sense, so they actually get to interact with the content just the same, so they're not disadvantaged. Or for a person who might have an audio impairment, then we may have to have some para educator inside the lesson to make sure that they're not disadvantaged, right? We also need to ensure that we include hands-on and virtual activities so that we cater to those persons who might be kinesthetic learners, or a person who is an hands-on learner. And for those persons who might be better at writing, then they may be better to use the virtual simulation that would allow them to be exposed to the same or similar content. As it relates to engagement, these are three things that we need to cater to. So choice and autonomy, relevance and value, and self reflection, right? All right, so as it relates to self reflection, we could ensure that, sorry, as it relates to choice and autonomy, we can have the students have flexible grouping, so the students are allowed to sit in a group of their choice, or they may choose a particular role in the group to enhance their strength and interest. We may have students carry out project-based learning where they choose a particular topic and they carry out a project based on their interests, right? And then as it relates to relevance, students would be more engaged if they consider the content to be relevant, and especially as it relates to sciences. Sometimes the content, when it's taught, there's no real world attachment or application. So it is good to ensure that we include a real life application of the particular concept, right? So say for example we're teaching about metals in chemistry, then we have to ensure that we include the relevance of that particular metal. So we could talk about the application of metals in industries. So say for example in manufacturing industry, we may use metals to build cars or to put in appliances or for cooking or things like that. So we have to make sure that to keep the students engaged, we attach some level of relevance, and we also may use guest speakers in a particular field to actually allow the students to see the use of it, since it's related. So we may have STEM professionals come to speak about the particular concept. All right, and we may have the students visit a science museum, or they may watch an engineering film, or things like that, or carry out a laboratory experiment on the particular concept. All right, so let's look at the benefits of UDL. So UDL is important because it supports diverse learners. So differentiated instruction so caters to students of varying abilities, learning style, and needs. As we were mentioning, we by using UDL we ensure that no student is disadvantaged, and every student have equal or yes, so they have an equal opportunity for learning, right? So we ensure equity in this particular case. Um, as we were speaking before, UDL is all about removing the barriers in learning. So there isn't anything that would be disadvantaged, or a student who might have an impairment cannot access their necessary content or resource. Right? So UDL is all about ensuring that we support the diversity in learning. It also ensures that we have personalized learning. So students will select or choose content that they're most interested in. So UDL is all about allowing for students to have the access in learning, right? And they have a personalized, meaningful learning experience. And also, if the content is culturally relevant to the student, then they're more likely to be more engaged in learning. So we have to ensure that we have culturally relevant concepts or content, or we teach it in a way that is culturally relevant. So say for example, in science, we could ensure that whenever we're teaching concepts, then we could relate it to our specific geography. So in Jamaica, for example, we teach when we're teaching metals, we could speak about the use of aluminum, or our Jamaica's particular case in the export of bauxite for aluminum manufacturing or things like that. So it's important that whenever we're teaching a concept, it is culturally relevant. Another benefit of UDL is to increase students' engagement. So we and also to greater students retention. So here students are more motivated in the learning environment. So and we have students taking ownership of their own learning, and this will boost motivation and enthusiasm in the learning experience. So UDL makes learning more engaging and interactive. So as it relates to boosting students retention, then it is important that the concept is related to a real world scenario, and students' interest will help to keep them invested in the subject matter. And UDL is all about ensuring that we have a positive learning environment and inclusivity in the classroom. Another benefit of UDL is to have better understanding and retention of the material. So we have multiple means of representing the material, and we have scaffolding in the learning environment. So students are well supported in the particular learning environment, and we ensure that we have materials which will cater to the different learning style in the environment. So this will ensure that students understand the material better, and they have a better chance of retaining the material. And UDL will also promote and enhance critical thinking and problem solving. So because we have a diverse approach that encourages students to explore different ways to solve problems, and this will promote to critical thinking. UDL also supports collaborative learning, so it encourages group work, and it will foster collaboration and communication skills. Finally, as it relates to personal growth for educators. UDL ensures that we have an innovative teaching experience and teaching practice. So it ensures that we have flexibility and adaptability. So UDL encourages educators to move more flexible and creative in their teaching approach, leading to more dynamic and effective instructions. It allows for continuous improvement, so regular reflection and feedback on UDL practices helps teachers continually improve their methods and better meet students' need. It also increases satisfaction as the classroom environment is more positive, so a student will be more satisfied as well as the teacher. So this will be effective in making the environment more conducive for teaching and learning. All right, that is the end of my UDL storybook. Thank you.